Hello and welcome to Breakthrough Conversations with Coach Pete, and I'm his co-host, Gloria Lybecker. And today we're going to talk about what does it mean to move on? Moving on, there's many different contexts that we could explore this, but why don't you give us a focus? Where are we going to focus this first anyway?
Sure. Thanks, Gloria. Moving on is a phrase, a concept that can mean different things at different times. I personally think from my studies, from my training, from my working with people and myself, that at some points in difficult situations, whether they be relationship, family, career, business, entrepreneurial venture, in so many different ways, there comes a point when you run into kind of the brick wall, over and over again, or things just aren't working out. When is the time to move on? And what do we mean by moving on?
Exactly. Yeah, I know there's been several different points in my life where I've recognized that I was ready to move on. And it was in different points of my life with my own growth and development when I can all of a sudden begin to see things that I hadn't recognized before. And when I recognized them, I'd like, well, okay, that's not working for me. I'm going to shift and pivot and do something different. And I would experiment. Well, what is going to work for me? Because I wasn't always certain, but I would be open to exploring the landscape and finding my path that way. So that's one way we could move on. What's another
Sure.
one that comes up for you?
Sure. And I think sometimes we get stuck in a difficult situation, no matter what realm of our life is difficult,
Mm-hmm.
and we can feel like defeated, or that was a waste of time, or that led nowhere. And then you kind of, it makes it difficult to move on. Whereas usually, not all the time, but usually there's something to be learned from a situation, whether it's with a person, a group of people, a business.
Mm.
There's something to be learned from,
Yeah.
and that can be positive. What did I learn from that? How did I grow? What kind of skills did I develop? Rather than, oh, I wasted 2 years of my life with that person or with that business or with whatever. Instead of, no, what was the gain from that? And what can I take from that and move on to other, maybe more positive situations or the next positive situation, and not be so stuck in, poor me, it just didn't work out. Oh, what am I going to do? And wringing hands. That generally doesn't do any good for anybody, does it?
No, not my experience either, but I think it's quite common. I think as human beings, we've perfected that. And one way we can recognize it is we can call it self-sabotage. We're actually sabotaging ourselves, judging ourselves based on our past experiences, and we tend to project that even into our future. And that can keep us really stuck on that wheel of that pattern. So I really like what you're saying as far as when you can really slow down and actually be with your experience. It's not pushing it away. It's not denying the disappointment or the frustration or whatever the emotion is. It's acknowledging it. It's allowing yourself to actually feel where it is in your body. And when you allow that, that's the practice of allowing. That starts to shift the human experience right there, and then actually turn and actually look at what would you really like. And when you look at what you would like, that's going to also shift your body and open your heart to something new, that you might begin to see things that you didn't even realize was right there in front of you. And it doesn't have to be, quote, positive or negative, right or wrong. When we can step out into that field of rooming out beyond right and wrong, we actually can see more expansive because we're not in that place of judgment. And I really recommend developing that muscle. And I know it's a practice. It definitely is a practice.
It is a practice. And what you're describing, what we're talking about here, I think is building on a situation, relationship, business, whatever it was, career, taking the positive and moving forward. I know you don't love the word positive or negative, but there are things we learn that because we can tend to be, as you put it, self-judging and putting ourselves down as much as the situation does. And all that means is we're stuck and we don't let go and move on to the next, whatever that next is. That next feeling about ourselves, that next entrepreneurial venture, that next career, that next relationship. And it's not necessarily putting down what was, it's building on it if we allow ourselves
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, so it's like it's a growth and development process for all of us. And recognizing that's part of our path in this having this human experience and allowing it that that's okay. We may not like certain aspects. We may feel strongly about them, in fact. And so when we allow ourselves to feel what we do and reach out and actually talk to somebody about it, that can really make a big impact as well, a positive impact, a positive as in it's life serving. When you open yourself and are vulnerable and to share your experience, that starts to create something new as well. When we
Oh,
learn,
you're bringing up something really,
just
sorry I interrupted.
that's welcome. And I want to just end up, I love how you're saying it's learning, it's building, because that's something I really love to recognize in my life. It's like, oh, okay, that didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. What am I learning here? And when I can identify what I'm learning, whether it feels like it was supportive or not, it's supportive to recognize it and to name it. And that allows you then to, how can I apply this going forward? And when I can apply what I've learned right there, I've now shifted whatever the pattern had been.
What
And
you
that,
just described is moving on
mhm,
in a positive way, in a connected way. You talked about connection. That's a whole topic for another discussion. But that idea of connecting in order to be able to move on, instead of being isolated and kind of brooding about it, and
yeah.
oh, poor me. Move on.
Yeah.
Figure it
And
out.
when we can take that action, then that's because we're empowered because we have identified and recognized where we were stuck. Instead of making it wrong, we can recognize it and grow and move through it. And that's something you've pointed out before too, how important it is to move through our experiences. Yeah.
Sure.
Beautiful. I love it. I feel empowered. Thank you, Coach Pete.
Let's move on.
Let's do it.